Yo, people, you are amazing. Thanks for tuning in and for having the guts to ask a great question. You asked, why am I so awkward all the time? I don't know why you're awkward, but for me, that's like a way of living. Anyways, I absolutely love it, and I can't wait to get to the nitty-gritty and provide you with two things. Number one, to help you realize why you feel awkward sometimes. And number two, is there anything that you can do to feel a little less awkward? Let me ask you a question. What exactly does it even mean to feel awkward? Think about it. Well, let's break it down. To feel awkward means to feel uneasy, to feel unsure, uncomfortable, embarrassed, humiliated, nervous, afraid, terrified, and self-conscious, meaning where your mind, your brain is just turned inward, right? And everything that you do just feels massive. How about for you? What happens when you feel awkward? Most people say that they blush, or they feel a pit in their stomach or their throat. It makes it hard to breathe or talk, or their muscles tense up, or they become jittery, or their mind goes blank, or they feel like their heart is going to simply burst out of their chest. Well, why does this happen? Well, I have an explanation for you, and it begins with your awesome and lovely brain. Your brain is a survival organ, which means that one of your brain's main jobs is to make sure that you're safe. So when your brain thinks that pain is coming, and by the way, I don't just mean physical pain, it can be mental, social, or emotional pain. It sounds the alarm, right? Whoop, whoop, and it begins to wave this yellow flag, and that's what your uneasy, unsure, blushing, pit in your stomach, jitteriness, cloudy brain, fast heart rate response is. It's basically your brain saying, bruh, you better get ready to fight, flight, or freeze, because something either is happening or is about to happen. Now, this can happen to you when you're standing on top of a cliff, or around a really scary dog, or a wildly unpredictable and crazy cat, or while you're driving, or before a big game, or a performance, or while you're watching a really scary show. But this can also happen to you when someone gives you a weird look as you're walking down the hall, or when you go in for a high five and you end up with a super weird hug, or when you say something that doesn't even make sense, or when your zipper's down, or you find out that you've had something in your teeth all day, or you make a plan to dress up with your friends and then you're the only one that actually does it, or when you run into a door, or you totally biff it down the stairs, or when no one laughs at your joke, or when you have to make a presentation in the front of class, or when you're trying to say two words but instead what comes out of your mouth is actually some weird concoction of those words and no one knows what you've just said, including you, or when someone waves at you and you get kind of excited and you wave back, but then you realize that they were really waving at somebody else, or when your mom or dad or whomever drops you off at school and as you're leaving the car they say something completely ridiculous like, I love you, have fun, and you immediately wish that you could jump into a rocket and fly to the moon. Yeah, I do crap like that to my kids. Anyways, I think you get the idea. There is an infinite amount of possibilities that can happen that can trigger this response. One of the reasons why your brain loses it is because it thinks that you've broken some social rule or social expectation, and as a result, your world is literally going to explode and your social life is pretty much over forever and ever and ever and ever. Yeah, our brains can be a bit dramatic and fatalistic, meaning that whatever has happened will never get better. Your brain also loses it because right now you're highly motivated to feel like you belong, that you're liked, that you're seen as cool by the people that you like. Because of this hyper awareness or this intense focus, when mistakes are made, man, they just seem massive, they seem large, and they seem scary. Oh yeah, one more small thing. Whether you're in junior high, middle school, or high school, congratulations. You have arrived at the peak of your awkward years. Zippity-doo-dah. But listen, I'm not here to deliver unfortunate news. I'm here to offer you some skills that will absolutely pay the bills, some tools that you can begin to use right now to settle that lovely brain of yours, to keep you moving forward instead of hiding out in the basement, and to help you to live your best life. Are you ready? Excellent. Number one, own the awkward moment. Basically, there are three ways of dealing with an awkward moment. Number one, you can make a huge deal of it. Number two, you can pretend like it didn't happen and move on. And number three, you can own it. Develop a sense of humor and laugh at it or about it. When some awkward moment happens, just call it out. Laugh about it. That's a great way to relieve some of that awkward tension. You could say something like, wow, that was amazing. Or yeah, I'm still learning how to talk or walk or jump or balance. Or man, did I just say that? Or wow, that was rough. Or can you hold on a second while I remove my foot from my mouth? Anyways, I know that was lame. And I'm sure that you can come up with way better lines, so maybe practice them ahead of time so that when you get ambushed by the awkwardness monster, you can just plug in one of those lines and not feel like you have to hide under a blanket. Number two, take the sting out of awkwardness. Awkwardness is not a death sentence. At most, it's a flesh wound. It's not a dragon. It's more like an iguana. So instead of constantly selling yourself the idea that awkward moments are horrible, terrible things that you have to avoid at all times, instead start teaching your brain that life is a science lab. It's a classroom, and that you're going to go through many social experiments, and that some of them are going to be successes and some of them are going to blow up in your face. Say it with me, my friend. It is what it is. Life is a process, and you will learn line upon line, a little here and a little there, and at times the most painful experiences will be the most important and memorable ones. So commit right now to approach life a scientist instead of a perfectionist, insecure, and egocentric person that can't afford to make any mistakes or take any missteps. This is the new idea that I want you to drill into your brain. Here it comes. Whatever happens, I can handle it. I can fix it. I can apologize for it. I can make it better. Every experience will help me to become a little better socially and mentally. What do you think? I mean, doesn't that perspective feel so much better? Hear me out for one more sec. You cannot become a slave to awkwardness. You can't. And if you have yourself convinced that awkwardness is social death, then you'll begin avoiding life and situations, and you'll stop taking risks. And as a result, your life will become small and you'll become a prisoner of your fears. Listen, you're not a prisoner. You're an explorer, and you have to expand your world instead of retreating into your shell like a tortoise. Number 3, shift your mental gear. Sometimes when something awkward happens or we begin to feel awkward, we become a little obsessive or self-conscious, right? We go into our heads, right? In other words, we feel like we're under a microscope or under a spotlight. Our brain turns in onto itself, and we become hyper-focused on every thought, feeling, every look that someone gives us, every word they say, the tone of their voice. In other words, we become really raw and sensitive. And the best way to pull yourself out of this hyper-focused state is to physically do something else. Tony Robbins used to say, the quickest way to change your emotional state is to physically do something. To that I will add, turn your focus outward. I've shared with you that the quickest way for you to emotionally feel better is to do something kind or helpful to somebody else. So jump out from under that microscope and spotlight and instead look to do something good for yourself and for someone else. You can A, send a nice text to a friend, family member, whatever, unless that's too awkward for you. B, listen to your favorite playlist. C, compliment someone, unless that's just so cringe for you that you can't bring yourself to do it. Come on, people, you gotta give me a chance to help you. D, smile at other people. Remember that smiling is an act of courage. E, look for an opportunity to help someone. F, show interest in another person. Ask them a question about the school they go to, the work they do, their hobbies or interests or friends or family. Shift the focus, right? G, laugh at yourself in the situation and move on to bigger and better things. H, make yourself useful and do something that matters to you or to someone else. I, play a game. J, call a friend or family member. K, whatever you do, practice it and teach that amazing brain of yours to not stay stuck on the negative events of your life, and instead let's focus on being the good and bringing the good. I promise it'll work with a little patience. All right, enough is enough. One of the main things that I want to convey to you is this. Don't let your negative experiences determine the rest of your experiences. A good friend of mine that spent his life in the military used to tell me, Yuri, you got to learn to embrace the suck, my friend. We have to learn to embrace the suck. Similarly, you have to learn how to hold hands and embrace awkwardness and the awkward moments of your life, because honestly, you're going to have plenty of those experiences, right? So when they happen, instead of being in complete shock, you can go, oh yeah, this is totally expected and I can handle it. Remember that sometimes awkward just means that you've left the comfort zone and that you've now entered the growth zone. There's an African proverb that says, smooth seas do not make skilled sailors. So just remember that sometimes to get to those really awesome relationships, you often have to sail through some awkward and rough waters. No stress. You got this. Be cool, stay in school, and enjoy.